Welcome back to SFGMC TV. My name's Mitch Galli, and I am the Associate Artistic Director for the San Francisco Gay Men's Chorus and the Director of our Educational Outreach Programming. Today, we are very fortunate to be joined with none other than Sam Bass, who is the Director of Visual and Performing Arts for San Francisco Unified School District. Sam, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. And so we actually have a really special connection with you because in addition to your role in your day job, you are also one of the singing members in the chorus.
Yes, I am. Very
How
proud.
How long have you been with the chorus?
So I joined in 2012 or 2011 when I moved here to San Francisco, and sang for about 3 years, and then I had to take a leave because I stepped into a role as principal of an elementary school here in San Francisco, and I didn't really have the time to commit. And so once I stepped into this new role of director of VAPA, I had the time to commit again, so I came back in August, and I'm very glad to be back.
So that's an interesting transition, going from principal into this incredible role now in charge of all of the arts for the school district. So can you tell us a little bit more about your journey and how you landed to where you are now?
Yeah, so I grew up in Jackson, Mississippi, and I was the only child of divorced parents, and they were both very different from each other. My mom was a church secretary, and she had me in First Baptist Church, Jackson, Mississippi, every time the doors were open. And that's where a lot of my musical experience came from as a child. And, I was playing piano, I was playing violin, and then I was in high school choir, and I decided to major in music education because I was so inspired by my high school choir director. So I started teaching straight out of college in Jackson, Mississippi in 2000, and I was a teacher for 12 years in both Mississippi and in Dallas, Texas, where coincidentally I also sang under Dr. Seelig with the Turtle Creek Chorale. And then life took me to Minneapolis, the Twin Cities, and I was a music teacher there. And I had a really inspiring principal in Minnesota who pushed me and encouraged me to step into leadership roles, which got me into a Master's of Educational Leadership. And just as I was getting my principal's license, life brought me to San Francisco to be with my now husband. And I first became the instructional coach at Burton High School here in San Francisco. And then I was the assistant principal at Denman Middle School and principal of Mira Loma. And lastly, I was principal at Burton High School here in the south part of San Francisco. And I adore that school, go Pumas. And I wasn't looking to leave Burton, but the opportunity presented itself last spring to step into a role where I would be leading all of the arts in the school district. And I was really excited. I am really excited to be in this role because now, I'm back doing the educational work that got me into education in the first place, which is arts education. So it's really kind of a dream come true and a dream job of mine.
That's incredible. It's really awesome to see it come full circle. And music, we find this, especially with our singers and musicians in general, is like it pervades through like everything that we do.
It does.
So for the educators that are watching this, and also just people that are in the arts right now or looking at how school districts are handling, especially arts education, because virtual learning can be quite challenging with the delay in making music. What are some of the ways that you've been seeing your school district, the SFUSD school district, engaging with their music students?
Yeah, all of our teachers, our visual and performing arts department, we support 5 different disciplines of the arts, and all of our teachers have been, just like everybody else, we've had to learn on the fly and get really creative about how we're presenting virtual learning to 50,000 San Francisco students. And my jaw has been on the floor at some of the things I've been able to see our teachers do through this, and the amount it has stretched them and their practice and in their pedagogy, and the amount of sharing of resources and sharing of ideas. We have a huge drive of resources that we've created for all of our teachers. So at any moment, they can just hop on and pull from lessons that other teachers are doing. And it's created a much more collaborative space, even though it's virtual, for our teachers to be sharing and working together. And so I think, even though it's a virtual experience for our students, it's a much more enriched experience because our teachers are able to collaborate so much and share so much together to support each other.
That's fantastic. Has there been any cross collaboration with other school districts, or now that we have the ability to even go beyond that, like nationally, are you seeing that there's communication across state lines even?
Yes. So I am, as we all live on Zoom every minute of the day now, or on Google Meet or any other platform, sorry, as we all live on these online platforms, I am in a virtual meeting once a month with all of the other directors of visual and performing arts for the state of California. I'm in one once a month with the national major city school districts, directors of visual and performing arts, as well as we have one here for just the Bay Area talking about our specific needs. And those have been extremely valuable in telling me what other districts are going through, how they're solving those problems, and able to share our own resources and ideas too. So yes, the conversation is going strong about how we're getting through this.
Are there any specific projects or tasks that students have been assigned that are very unique or inventive or just exciting to share with the world?
Yeah, one thing that comes to mind is one of our high school choir directors who is pretty social media savvy and tech savvy, has figured out a really nice online platform that allows the kids his high school choir to record singing with each other virtually, and have created some really, really incredible a cappella pieces. And so seeing things like that have just given me like, oh, there's hope for our teachers, there's hope for our students, and we're gonna figure this out in the singing world, and that's where me being part of the Gay Men's Chorus has been such a help, because we've been having those conversations about what does this mean? What are the scientists telling us this means for the world of singing? And being able to have the Gay Men's Chorus as a resource to bring back to our own work in the school district has been really, really helpful.
Thank you. And I mean, the chorus is so proud to be able to help in any way that we can in our community, because this is definitely a time that we are all going through this together. There are clearly a lot of challenges right now with all that we are presented with and having to move onto virtual learning so quickly with very little training. What has been, would you say, the biggest challenge for VAPA, for visual and performing arts?
There, if shelter in place had happened in a more graduated, staggered kind of way, we could have put a lot of more plans in place to proactively solve some of the problems we're trying to solve now. But because it happened so fast, we didn't have time to put a lot of plans in place for the continuation of learning. And then we also didn't know how long this was going to last. So at first we thought we were going to be out for 3 weeks, and then it got extended, and then it got extended again. So we realized we had a lot of problem solving to do, and then it got extended, and that created a whole new set of problems, and then it got extended to the end of the school year, and that created a whole nother layer of solving, like, what does graduation look like, what does grading look like, what does all these things for our teachers. But we've been in such a problem solving mode that I think the biggest challenge is that we didn't have time to prepare, and we all had to just be thrust into this new world of educating kids. And so, there's all kinds of challenges that come with that, from, accessibility for some of our underserved students and our underserved populations, making sure that our teachers are able to connect and even find each one of their kids has been difficult. But I've been really proud of SFUSD for its resourcefulness and how we've come together as a body of educators to keep learning happening.
Mm-hmm. Now, one of the things with our city is that we've always we've been one of the forefront cities in the country that are handling how we are handling this pandemic. And so as a result, there's a chance that we might be one of the first cities to announce that we aren't starting up again in the fall for schools yet, because we want to be very safe and protect our community. So is there any plans or discussions right now over the summer with any type of professional developments for teachers now that we will have more time to prepare, so that if they do have to go back into online learning?
Yeah, so our district leaders, our superintendent, our deputy superintendents, they're very, very good at listening to CDC guidelines, listening to the health organizations and their guidance. And we're really good in SFUSD at not rushing to decisions, but being thoughtful about them. And so we have not heard word about the fall and about the start of school yet. And while we all eagerly await, we also understand why we don't know yet, to see, you know, how this is going to play out. Our all summer school is virtual in SFUSD this summer. And I already know some of the events that typically happen in August as administrators and teachers start returning to school to prepare for the school year. Some of those events are going to be virtual. So, you know, while we don't have word, it's looking like we're definitely going to not be back to business as usual in August. It's going to be something different. And so we've already started our conversations about what that looks like and what that means for VAPA. It's really a complex problem to solve, because we have in our music discipline, we have all of our performing groups, and they're assigned to courses, to classes in their schedule. And if we're only allowed to have 20 to 25, whatever number of students in a classroom that are socially distanced, what does that mean for our 100-member advanced band at our high school and rehearsing together? So we're going to have to get really creative with master schedules. We're going to have to get creative about how students are sharing art supplies. And this isn't just a VAPA issue, it's a worldwide educational issue. But all of these things are going to come up for us in the near future.
Yeah, and this is a discussion that we've had internally as a staff too with the chorus, in terms of choirs in schools, because I mean, as you said, it's written into the schedule. And so that's a concern of like, what is the future for choir teachers? And so how is the district planning on handling that and protecting teachers?
So I had this very conversation with one of our high school choir directors just yesterday, and we went down several roads of thought about ideas of how to problem solve. And we talked about everything from, you know, making more of a vocal coaching, vocal training situation with smaller groups of kids in classes. We talked about creating, you know, if a teacher teaches 5 classes a day, can that teacher have 5 different chamber groups? And can those chamber groups be, imagine the drum set and the sound board, the clear sound board that's around a drum set. If you imagine singers behind those in some way in a room, I mean, that, and that, please don't take that as that's what we're doing, but that's just one idea that's been thrown out of how to solve this problem. So it's going to be interesting to see what this looks like in the fall, and what our teachers are going to be able to do. You know, we're in a bit of a budget situation right now because of city revenue that's not coming in, which means city revenue that's not coming into the school district. And so we're having to make some really, really hard decisions about what we're able to pay for and what we're able to continue versus what we need to pause for a couple of years until the city is back on its feet again. But SFUSD has ensured that our teachers are still going to be there and our students are still going to show up. So we may not have all of the resources for the next couple of years that we're used to, but we're definitely going to have the teachers and the kids, and learning's going to happen. We'll figure it out.
Yes, the district is they're in good hands with you. So they're very lucky to have you as a leader.
Well, thank you.
What are have there been any pleasant surprises or positives to come out of this pandemic?
Interestingly enough, and hopefully the viewers have seen it, is our new SFUSD TV show that happens every day at 2 o'clock on KTVU+. So thanks to the generosity of KTVU+, we've been able to create what I think is a first district run and produced television show locally. And that has been full of lots of lessons from our teachers, and it's geared for pre-K through second grade, so it is our earlier ages, but the San Francisco Ballet has stepped up and provided teaching artists to do movement on the show. Our superintendent does a magic trick on most of the shows, and he closes each show by singing to the kids. And it's just like, so on some days when I cannot take Zoom meetings anymore, I pause and I turn on SF Loves Learning just to remind myself what we're doing and why we're doing it. It's been a really bright spot.
I've seen it, and it definitely, it's some good news for our day that we need. So that's been an awesome collaboration to see. Are there any resources that you would recommend for students, even outside of the school district, if they're people who are really eager to make art right now? Because that is one way that we can kind of heal and cope with everything that's happening. And so is there any resources you'd recommend?
Yes. So the first one I would recommend is we've created an SFUSD VAPA resources for families website, which is linked on our own VAPA website. And we have filled that with learning videos for kids. And right now it's the elementary age, and we're rolling out phase 2 this week, which is our secondary lessons. And it's also going to include a link to a lot of virtual field trips that are online right now that can be accessed. The bigger picture nationally, what I would say as far as resources goes, our museums and our major organizations like the San Francisco Symphony and other major cities and their nonprofits like symphonies and museums have all really had to change the way they work and what they're providing. You know, donors and the philanthropic world has had to change how they're donating and what that looks like. And donors, like for example, donors who are used to funding student field trips to museums are now looking at how can we fund the museum to reach out to schools and reach out to school districts to support that work. But online, if you're just looking for resources, just start Googling museums, start Googling performance halls, because all of those organizations have had to really start adjusting how they provide content for the masses, and fortunately our arts teachers and our families are able to benefit from it.
There are, I'm sure, parts of this country, we're lucky in SF to have a district that is so supportive of the arts, but with all of the budget cuts that are happening because of the economy, there's a chance that arts could get cut, especially if it's virtual learning. Do you have any advice to other district level and principals across the country on the importance of arts education during this time?
Yeah, you know, to use some of our administrative language, arts is core. And people who are not necessarily as plugged into the importance of the arts and a quality arts education can find really many ways to cut it. And they can, using any excuse from, oh, we don't have the budget, oh, we have to make sure that these other core subjects are mastered before we can even offer these programs. And what I would say to those site leaders who are working on their budgets right now, who are probably working on budget cuts right now, and they're also working on the unknowns of a master schedule next year, is to remember that arts is core. It is essential. We have state standards that are adopted, and denying a child like me the opportunity to at least be successful in one subject and build that confidence is such a travesty. And you know, our graduate profile in SFUSD talks about sense of purpose, sense of self, and what better way to build that sense of purpose and that sense of self than through the arts in all of the other core subjects. You know, there is so much of the arts represented in math and in reading and throughout all history. It's embedded in all of our core subjects, and that's why it's core. And so I would just say to any site or district leader, remember that it's core and it needs to stay core.
Awesome. So I'm going to do a transition now back to kind of you on a more personal level rather than your role with SFUSD. But what does SFGMC mean to you?
So that's a very easy question to answer. Um, you know, I live 2,500 miles away from where I grew up on purpose because um, I grew up in a family that was not accepting of any type of LGBTQ culture, acceptance, anything. And so without having a supportive biological family, SFGMC has become my chosen family. And I think many of our members would say that. It's not just about the performance, it's about personal connections. It's about being creative together in rehearsals. I get really mad when I have to miss a rehearsal because of how much it feeds my spirit, it feeds my soul. And the hugs and the high fives and all of those things that, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little emotional because I miss it right now. But that's what it means to me. It's so much more than a group of guys who like to sing together. It is a family, and it's a family that's missing each other right now. As you can see in our weekly Zoom calls together, you can see the smiles through tears. And it's just the chorus conversations we're having on Monday nights I look forward to them all week and through the weekend because it's just giving me that connection again while we get through this.
Definitely. There was a statement by an artist recently that was talking about how our first responders have been fighting on the front lines for our physical health, and that the second round of responders is going to be artists. Just talking about like they are going to heal our souls now. And so I think that having students continue to have arts education, even if it's virtual, is so important for them right now as a creative outlet, for a way for them to express their emotions and to learn more about themselves. So thank you again for the work that you're doing on that. Is there any other advice that you want to give to performing arts and visual arts students during this pandemic in how to navigate these next few months and potentially year, and what the future looks like for us?
I think I would say, I'm picturing my former Burton students as I say this. You don't have to be enrolled in an arts class to create. It doesn't take much to create something. And create, as human beings, it's in our DNA, it's in our nature to create. And so regardless of a pandemic, regardless of whatever classes you have to take right now and what they look like, or how you have to social distance yourself or stay at home, you should still be creating. And it's okay to try things and mess up and try again and experiment with. You may never have sung or been in a choir in your life, but it's okay to do those things. And so I would just encourage that even though you might not be getting some kind of formal experience or guidance, that you can still create. And I hope that's happening in every household as students sit at home.
Well, thank you again. It was so wonderful to chat with you. Look forward to when we can perform together again. Miss seeing you for sure. And when we can also start going back into schools in the school district and bringing our rhythm program to those students again. We're already brainstorming ways to bring it to them virtually. So I will.
Oh, that's fantastic news, because I'm really looking forward to bringing rhythm into SFUSD.
And your first experience at one of the shows was going to be the week that we went into lockdown, actually.
Yes, we had one scheduled that week.
I know. It was a double header at 2 different schools. So we're still in touch with them, and we're committed to making sure that they still get the chorus's message, and that they are a part of this program. So thank you again. Please, if you haven't already, like and subscribe the San Francisco Gay Men's Chorus YouTube channel so that you can keep up to date with all of our exciting new projects, as we do have many exciting ones in the pipeline. Have a wonderful day, and we look forward to being in touch with you soon.
Thanks.